Hello YouTube, this is Thomas Judge, back once again with another instalment of the DC Rebirth reading guide series I'm doing on my channel. Today's video 4.3, in which we're going to be finishing section 4, which is all about brackets, teen, close brackets, Titans. And specifically we're going to be talking about the series Titans, because we've already done Teen Titans and we've already done Deathstroke. As a quick overarching intro, this is the intro bit. I need to remember I've read the entirety of DC Rebirth. That's 3,370 issues, and I've been releasing it bit by bit, section by section, and now we're in the core mainstream continuity, which is 2,724 issues. Here's the playlist overview. There are 4 playlists on my channel. The first one is for everything the DC Rebirth related that I've ever done, ever will do. But within that, I've curated and split it out into 3 sub-playlists, depending what you're interested in. One of them is all the custom binds related to DC Rebirth. The other one is all the DC Rebirth reading guides that aren't part of the mainstream continuity, so stuff like Deceased and Wildstorm and things like that. And then the third one is the mainstream continuity, which is this massive reading order guide. Finally, I would remind you that before you watch this video, you need to go back and watch the introduction video for any of my series, really, but especially this one. That's video 0.0, because that explains how this guide follows directly on from my New 52 guide, as well as some key concepts that I refer to all the time, such as Type P and Type J readers, and volumes with a big V and volumes with a small v. And this is kind of key vocabulary that I'm not going to go into again and again. With the intro out the way, I normally dive into the map, but before I dive into the map, there's just 2 things that I really want to point out. Firstly, the Titan series we're going to be talking about today is a very, very, very direct follow-up to the Rebirth 80-page one-shot. And, I mean, there's no way you'd be reading any DC Rebirth series without reading the one-shot first. But all I'm saying is that if there was ever a perfect sequel to that Rebirth inaugural one-shot, it's Titans. And in addition, actually, to read this, you really need, ideally, to have read the final Titans maxi series in the New 52 set just before the DC Rebirth one-shot. So from the New 52 era, what you need to read actually is this, which is Titans Hunt. It's an 8-issue series from the New 52 from 2015, and it's also really important. If you don't read it, you'll be okay, but even if you're a Type J reader, I would recommend thinking about grabbing this. Now, this isn't a New 52 epilogue per se, because the New 52 epilogues I covered in section 1 of this map were just a standalone one and done's. This is actually kind of a New 50 epilogue that's also a DC Rebirth prologue. Titans Hunt is very unusual in that way, and I would strongly recommend you read that before reading this. But with no further ado, let's have a look at the map. And here we are. As usual, we'll start off with a strategic level, top level event-led map, just because it makes things kind of clearer. These bright turquoise boxes are the ones for section 4. Someone did contact me and say that actually I've used the same colour scheme I used in the New 52, where there were bright turquoise circles for the young section of the New 52. Yeah, I did. That's deliberate. So we've covered Teen Titans, we've covered Deathstroke, now we're looking at Titans. In terms of Titans, that series starts, it then goes into the Lazarus contract, as all of them do. It skips Dark Knight's Metal. It then goes into No Justice, sort of, which we'll talk about in a second. It is then unaffected by the Terminus agenda. It does go into Drowned Earth, and it carries on after Drowned Earth, but it stops before Year of the Villain. Okay, hopefully that's nice and clear, but let's dive into it on a trade paperback level here. So what we have is Titans here. It's interesting that in the period before the Lazarus contract, Teen Titans only released 1 trade paperback collection. Deathstroke released 3, and Titans released 2. It's weird, and yeah, it's notable, I guess. The first volume with a small v is Titans Volume 1, The Return of Wally West, and obviously Wally West and his return is directly out of the DC Rebirth one-shot. This particular volume contains the Titans Rebirth one-shot, which is specifically the Titans one, not the main universe-wide one, and then issues 1 to 6. It's followed by this volume, which is called Made in Manhattan. Again, you can see the little icon as I hover over it. This contains issue 7, which cameos Superman and requires, I guess, being familiar enough with the New 52 to know that this Superman that cameos in issue 7 here is actually the original pre-Flashpoint version. In other words, he's Superman prior to the Superman event Superman Reborn, which we will cover over in section 8. And we after issue 7, we then have issues 8 to 10, and that then is followed by the DC Rebirth Holiday Special, which is got a lot of different stories in it, and specifically it's the Titan story, What a Year for a New Year, that's reprinted here, and then it has Annual 1. And then, as you can see, after the second volume, we go into Lazarus Contract. And for the third time, here we are with the Lazarus Contract. So just remind everyone, the Lazarus Contract is a Deathstroke, Teen Titans, Titans crossover event. Also features the Flash. The story is about Deathstroke trying to steal the Flash's powers to travel back in time, save his son. This is the issues in the exact sequence they need to be read. So you've got Titans 11, Teen Titans 8, Deathstroke 19. Remember, Deathstroke 19 does end, saying to be continued in Teen Titans Annual 1. That doesn't exist, as I've already mentioned. Instead, it's continued in the Teen Titans Lazarus Contract Special. And then you have Deathstroke 20. Those are the issues in this trade collection. Flipping over, this is the actual ad art that DC has made. I think some of you got a little bit confused. This isn't something I've made. This is actual art that DC had when they were publicizing this event. Bizarrely enough, I don't know why it doesn't contain all the issues, but there you are. That's exactly what it is. But this doesn't contain the issues that are actually in the trade or hardcover collection, both standard size. So let me know which type of artwork you like. This is the event. I've already talked about it in 2 previous videos. Let's flip back to the map. After the Lazarus Contract, we continue on with Titans here. We have Titans volume with a small v3, which is called A Judas Among Us. It contains issues 12 to 18. And issue 14 does reference and slightly spoil the events of Aquaman 25, so that's worth noting. Now, Titans isn't involved in Dark Knights Metal, though obviously Dark Knight Metal is a universe-spanning event, but you don't have to read it at all. After the Dark Knight Metal event, you then have Volume 4, which is Titans Apart, which contains issues 19 to 22 and Annual 2. Now, Annual 2 ends saying to be continued in No Justice, and it basically isn't really continued in No Justice, as we've already kind of previously discussed. But there is a Teen Titans special in No Justice, but don't worry about that. You can read No Justice if you want, it's completely optional. But then if we go on to the next volume of Titans, it's Titans volume with a small v5 called The Spark, and it contains the Teen Titans special, which has particular branding on it saying from the pages of No Justice. In fact, I'll show it to you here. And then it also has issues 23 to 27 in this trade collection. Now, all of these issues deal with the aftermath of No Justice a lot. Issue 27 actually references a pretty critical death over in Heroes in Crisis, which has literally just happened, as well as some pretty key events happening in Nightwing 49, and is set just before pretty key events in Batman 55. So there's a fair risk you're going to get hit by spoilers if you read this. It's very hard to know what to read first unless you're going to stop reading this and dip over to Section 7 and Section 6 to read Hero stuff and Batman stuff respectively. But obviously if you're a Titans fan, that is up to you. You'll notice Titans here crosses over with Drowned Earth, and that's because issue 28, which is not collected in any Titans trade paperback, is collected here in Drowned Earth. And here we are, the last event of the Titans part of this universe. This is Drowned Earth, which is really pretty much a crossover event between Justice League and Aquaman. However, as you can see from this list of issues, the third one in is a kind of optional tie-in from Titans 28. It's just a tie-in and considered and labelled as such. It does contain, as I sort of alluded to before, there's a major spoiler about Heroes in Crisis and a major spoiler to do with Nightwing, both of which get mentioned quite a lot in this issue. So I would say don't read this issue and therefore don't read this event if you're reading Titans, but the truth is after this issue, when you go into the next volume we're going to talk about, similarly those spoilers abound. So you'll have to make it up your own mind as a type J or type P reader whether you want to have paused Titans by this point and moved on to read Batman and catch up with a few other things before you come back. Just quickly flipping over, this is the ad page, again made by DC, highlighting what Drowned Earth is and the constituent issues. Hopefully that's useful if you're reading in singles, and again if you're reading in singles you will have to make that choice. Do you want to read this because it does include Titans 28, or do you want to skip this because of the spoilers, but then what you're going to do with the later spoilers as well. It's all a little bit messy. It rewards type J thinking rather than type P thinking. But with no further ado, let's head back to the map. So that's Drowned Earth, and if we move up here, we'll see the final Titans volume with a small v6. It's called Into the Bleed and just contains issues 29 to 36. A couple of little subtle things here. Issue 32 does reference an event in Teen Titans issue 20 where they take down a particular antagonist or group of antagonists. Don't worry about that. What's more annoying is issue 35 does say, oh, this bit will be continued in Justice League Annual 1. It is not continued in Justice League Annual 1, and Justice League Annual 1 has several of the characters from this series taking part in a way that kind of defies continuity. So that's in the annual for this series here, Justice League 2018. So frankly, that doesn't really make any sense and is kind of sloppy editorial work, to be honest. Okay, that's the end of Titans, and as we zoom out, as we'll see, that is the entirety of the trade paperbacks there. Just to recap, Titans goes through Lazarus Project, skips Dark Mass Metal, vaguely touches No Justice, entirely optional reading, skips Terminus Agenda, and then goes into Drowned Earth before it ends. And here you can see the trades for it here. This is the trades for all of the series. If you're a Teen Titans fan or a fan of the Titans universe, then you're going to be a fan of Titans, Teen Titans, and Deathstroke. Here are all the trades that you need. Here are all the events and crossovers that are involved. And yeah, hopefully that helps. That's the end of this section 4, which is the Teen Titans sort of section. The next section is going to be the new age of DC heroes, and I'll catch you in video 5.1.
Alright, thanks for watching everybody. As always, please like, comment, subscribe. As always, please follow me on Twitter at @IamThomasJudge, where I will post a daily review of whatever comics I've been reading. You can get an idea of what I'm up to on the channel. And as always, please support the channel by heading over to Amazon.com and checking out my prose novel about superheroes. It's a completely original piece of work. The first episode in it is called Arrivals, and the series as a whole is called No Gods or Kings. You can find an excerpt of that on my website, nogodsorkings.com. Until next time, everybody, stay classy.